All right, so hi everybody. Thank you for joining us on this Saturday. We'll call it morning, even if it is afternoon or whatever time of day. So it's a little rainy out here. So this session is all about teaching AI ethics in middle school. Middle school is one of those pivotal levels where, like, I mean, students get a sense of humor, for example, their maturity is kind of all over the place, but they have some level of it. And they're able to understand things in more depth than they are at a younger age. And so that's why this session is particularly for middle school students, because this is something that we can teach them at that age that they can actually hold on to throughout the rest of their educational journey. So let's go ahead and get started. So a little bit about me. My name is Linney. I own the company TL Specialist LLC. I've worked in education for a total of 13, what year is this? Yeah, 13 years. And I'm currently working on my second master's in data science. And so with data science, it is all within the same family. It's like this whole inbred of like computer science, data science, AI. There's like all this overlap. And just a little background on that aspect. Recently, I took an ethics in data science course as part of my curriculum for grad school, because as we go and build out our capstones this semester, it was really important that we had an understanding of ethics and that we were making things in an ethical way. So and then that takes us into our topic for today, because ethics is not just something that applies to law and order. Ethics is something that applies across industries, especially technology. So, how we're going to approach today, we're going to take this step-by-step approach, which you can actually copy and paste and do within your classrooms as well. That step-by-step approach is we're going to start with define. It's really important that when it comes to AI, that we define what it is for students, because they're used to just using things and not necessarily understanding what the thing does. They'll get on social media and say, oh, I can post, it went viral. What does that mean? What causes it to go viral? Um, then, oops, and then step two is going to be relate. So when we talk about AI and ethics, we need to make sure that our examples are relatable to our audience. If we're giving really old lectures about AI to our students, then they're not seeing how it relates to their world today. Number three is identify. So once we have that relatability, then we can start to identify examples of AI in society. And then we can get students to take a deeper look into what those AI policies are. Number four is apply. So once they've defined, once they've been able to relate to the topic, once they've identified examples, then they can apply that new understanding into creating their own AI ethics guidelines for X, Y, and Z. So we're going to look at all of these steps in a like singular approach for each one so that you can see how they're used and then start to learn how they can be used within your learning environment. And then we're also going to look at the resources that you can use within your middle school context to teach about AI ethics. All right, so the first step is define. And when it comes to defining AI, we need to first look, well, when it comes to defining what ethics are, we need to first look at AI. So what is AI? And we know that AI is artificial intelligence, but what we don't necessarily know is that it comes in two different forms. One is predictive AI. Predictive AI, it makes predictions based on information given. So how this relates to our daily lives is if you're a user of Spotify or Audible or any of those media services or YouTube or Hulu, what have you, you will oftentimes get commercials, song recommendations, book recommendations based on your viewing, listening, watching habits. So This is predictive AI. It looks at you as the consumer and then it predicts what you're going to be interested in based on what you have been doing already. This other AI is generative AI. Now, generative AI is something that creates new content. This is those tools that exist out there, like ChatGPT, for example. That is generative AI. ChatGPT is something that you can train, and that based on what you tell it to do, it will create something brand new. Okay, so I'm going to show you an example of what that looks like. The generative AI, it's trained, it's based on your user input. When we have students that are like, they're using ChatGPT, I'm going to say, write me a cover letter for Starbucks barista. Okay, now I'm using a personal example here. I used to work at Starbucks when I was in college. And right here, this is the first step of the training for the generative AI. So I'm telling it what to do, but what the AI doesn't know is that I have experience. So then I'm going to tell it I have worked at coffee shops for 6 years. Hasn't really been 6 years, it's been more like 4, but still. What happens here with the generative AI is that I'm training it and it iterates based on the feedback that it receives. So this is more of an example of what we're seeing students use in class. They could just copy a prompt and paste it in, or they could iterate on it. And when you iterate on it, it becomes more about what you're telling it to do rather than just answering the basic question. So this is an example of generative AI. And what I can also do with ChatGPT here is I can say, make shorter. This is one of my favorite things, especially with cover letters. I'm like, it's too long. No, just make it shorter. And see, it puts in those 6 years of experience and working with coffee shop and my passion for coffee and a track record of excellent customer service. And, it really jazzes things up. I could also copy and paste like my bio in here and it could customize something for me. So this whole process of using ChatGPT, this is training the model to do what you want it to do. And when we talk about AI, there are people whose jobs are to train the model. And it's all about what they're training the model to do and what they're training the model to see. So we're going to take a moment and I'm going to have you either scan this on your smartphone or there's a hyperlink in here. So I'm going to copy that and I'll put that in the chat here. Yeah, we're going to put it in the chat. And I think that this is the everyone chat, which is totally fine. So either way that you want to access it from either the chat or from this QR code here, it's going to take you to this Jamboard. And in this Jamboard, there's 3 jams altogether. Yes, we know that Google is retiring Jamboard, or they're not really retiring it, they're selling it to another provider. So, but that'll be in 2024. So we've still got some time where we can use it. So I want you to use Jamboard and make notes about what comes to mind when you see or hear the word ethics. And to use Jamboard, if you've never used it before, you can click on this sticky note over here, start typing a note, and then hit save, and you can change your color and move the note around. I'm going to say hi, save, hit cancel if you don't have other thoughts, and you can click, hold, and drag. You can make that larger. 3 circles you can delete, and 3 circles you can edit as well. So we're going to take about a little more than a minute to for you to share what comes to mind when you see or hear the word ethics. All right, so let's see what we're looking like on the Jamboard over here. Fabulous. We have some responses. So again, for those of you just now joining, we're running this session similar to how you would do this in your classroom when working with middle school students, how you would teach them about ethics. You first start by breaking down what is AI, then you start to look at the definition of ethics. So These are some of the things that people have come up with when it comes to what comes to mind when you see or hear the word ethics. And let's see, being mindful and intentional and practical in practice or use, good. Data collection practices with AI specifically, for sure, we're going to look at that. Um, let's see, binary right or wrong, that's good. Truthfulness and best practices, truth for sure. Fairness, honesty, behaviors, yep. Choices and decisions that cause the least harm. I like that you put in the least harm rather than no harm, because oftentimes there is harm, but it's like which one is going to be the least. And then making choices for the better of a bigger group. And then over here, you've got commonly agreed upon rules of conduct and behavior that are morally acceptable by the general population. Yeah, so that feels like something that I've read in many places. So when it comes to ethics, we first need to define, like, what are ethics to us? What does it mean? Then we come into the relate aspect. So in order for students to really hone in on content, it needs to be relatable. And the relate comes in the form of what I like to use is videos so that they can watch and see rather than just read about things. Sometimes there'll be news headlines, for example, that resonate, but for the sake of today, we're gonna watch two very short videos. Always keep them under 5 minutes. That way it hooks the students and get the students to take notes about what they see and what resonates with them in the video. So we'll watch this really quick. So sound is shared and then
what
play.
field you end up going into, it's quite likely that AI is going to have some impact on what you're doing.
The potential for AI to help society is enormous.
It's something that is influencing a lot of very important decisions about real humans and their lives.
It could be used in education to be more of an equalizer between people. It could be used in healthcare to develop new drugs. It could be used in science to develop new technologies.
And like any technology, its application will depend on how it is utilized.
And at the same time, we need to think about the risks that are associated with doing that.
The consequences are huge.
The kind of artificial intelligence technology that really dominates the applications we're seeing today is machine learning. Machine learning depends entirely on the information that you feed it.
The problem is that with real-world data, there's often information in there that you didn't intend to be in there, but is captured because of the bias in the data collection process.
So if you're building an AI to determine who gets a home loan or who should be charged with a crime, it could definitely bubble up the racial biases that humans and our current society already does.
A lot of what it means to build less harmful AI is really systems that are including the perspectives of those that are most vulnerable or most marginalized, most likely to be hurt by the deployment of that system.
In many ways, I've worried that the people who are particularly vulnerable to AI are the people who are already underprivileged in many respects.
Most people in the world just have AI applied to them rather than playing an active role in guiding what AI gets applied to.
Everybody you know has a computer in their pocket. That's young people, old people, rich people, poor people. To me, that's actually quite exciting from a democratization of technology perspective. It means that AI, powerful as it is, could theoretically be in everybody's pockets, benefiting everybody.
We should strive to make sure that things that provide value for society can be reached to anybody.
How do we give a greater voice to the people who are being impacted by AI to in turn be able to turn around and impact how AI is used for them?
Every time when you're looking at a new problem, you have an opportunity to change the world. Sometimes we succeed, sometimes we don't, but we always try.
It's really critically important that we have as many diverse perspectives as possible influencing the development of AI. We need the participation of more women, more people of color, to provide a different perspective and a different lens on which problems matter and how we should approach these problems.
Are you ready to revolutionize your professional learning? It's time to ignite your passion with EduMatch. Inspire, connect, and grow. Access over 150 professional learning facilitators and explore a wide range of educational topics. This is not just professional development, this is a movement. Discover how EduMatch can support your school or district. Connect with us today and make a world of difference for your students. To learn more, visit us online at edumatch.org.
All right, so this has been a resource by code.org, and code.org is doing a lot of great things with regards to bringing AI into their computer science offerings. And so it's a really great free resource where you can, I've got the resources at the end here that I'll share with you, where you can go exactly to that like video and like that lesson plan as well. One thing that came up in that video was about bias. So the AI is programmed by people, right? And people are biased. Whether we know it or not, if we don't know it, it's unconscious bias. If we do know it, it's a conscious bias, but there is bias in humans. And so if humans are the ones programming the AI, then there's going to be bias in the AI. And it's important that students understand that when we teach them about ethics as well, so that they know why certain things are targeted for or against certain people. So we'll watch this very short video, and then what I'm going to have you do is reflect. We'll do another activity where we're going to look at different AI code of ethics for different organizations.
I have a confession. Sometimes, with no one in sight, I code in a white mask. As I make whimsical systems to paint walls with our smiles or project inspirations on faces, I enjoy using code to make my ideas a reality. Computer vision powers my creativity. I code in a white mask. As I make whimsical systems to paint walls with our smiles or project inspirations on faces, I enjoy using code to make my ideas a reality. Computer vision powers my creations, making it possible for machines to detect faces. But at times, I'm invisible. You see, machines view the world through a coded gaze. They digest pixels from a camera in dictated ways. Using machine learning, we create training sets with examples that help the machines detect new faces. A lack of diversity in these training sets leads to limited systems that can struggle with faces like mine. To save time, code libraries for facial recognition are shared like off-the-shelf parts. Many computer vision projects share the same code. Any bias in the system propagates widely and implants a coded gaze. The coded gaze reflects the views of whoever creates the systems. All of our work reflects both our aspirations and our limitations. Can we do better? Yes. We can begin by intentionally creating inclusive code. I call this encoding. Encoding is a mindset that asks, who's missing? Detecting the invisible is easier when you have full spectrum teams equipped with different life filters. Who codes matters. Encoding is a process that explicitly checks the impact of bias during the design, development, and deployment of coded systems. How we code matters. Encoding is a personal mission and an invitation to create a world with a culture of inclusion. A world where technology works for all of us and centers social change. No more masks.
All right. So now that we've seen some ways in which we can show students how AI and ethics relate to their lives, what we can then look at is okay, we can then get into the identify. So we've already done relate, we've done define, relate, and now we can identify. And one thing that I like to do with students is get them to identify a code of ethics for a tool or a site that they use often. So if students are on Instagram or TikTok or really any social media, if they do a search of that social media and AI code of ethics, see if anything comes up. And so what we're going to do, and this is clickable as well. So let me copy this link. I'll put this in the chat in just a moment. We're going to take a few minutes for you to do this activity so that when you empower students to do this activity, you can see the steps that they go through. And I'm going to have you share the link on the Jamboard. So you're going to take 5 minutes to find the AI code of ethics for an app that you or your students use. It could be something that just you use, or you can relate it down to the student level. All right, so let's take a look and see like what we're putting with regards to what we're finding on AI code of ethics for different tech companies. Great. So right away, the first one that I see is the Open AI. So that's your Chat GPT, and that's their charter on how they use the data. And that one is very interesting. I would definitely suggest looking at that and sharing that with your students as well. Canva also has one with regards to their product terms. Quizzes has one. Google's Bard has one. Spatial has one. So a lot of these tech tools that we use on a regular basis are going to have a code of ethics. And it's kind of that fine print that as adults, we just accept the terms. Like I just got a new Pixel, for example, and I read the highlights and I just said yes. So I was like, okay, go ahead and hurry up and set up and upgrade and like all that stuff, right? But it's when we read the fine print, then we know what is being done with our data and how the AI is going to be using our data. Okay, so once students have found the AI code of ethics for the tools that they use, then that's when the next part of this comes into play. So this next part is apply. And when it comes to applying what the student has learned about AI code of ethics for different tech companies and the importance of having something that talks about ethics with any technology tool, that's when we can start to look at lesson integrations. So we know that our students are using AI for a variety of purposes, whether it be in their personal or their academic lives. Some lesson integrations that we can look at is creating an AI ethics mini lesson based on your curricular area. So if in middle school, we're split up into different subjects, your math, your science, your reading, your writing, different things like that. See where having an AI ethics mini lesson, kind of like what we did today, would work within the content. Let's say that you were doing a current events unit. How would AI work with that? Would you have students do research on different news agencies and see if they have an AI code of ethics? Would you, like, if you're using a new app, if you were using Chat GPT with your students, or if you introduced a brand new tech tool, would you get them to look at the AI code of ethics for that? Another lesson integration is that you could have students create an AI code of ethics for your class. So if students are allowed to use AI in your classroom environment, if it's that generative AI that allows them to train a model to create something, then are you going to make them train it, like have 6 different things that it's training it on? And they have to show like how they train the model in order for you to accept their submission. So really getting creative with regards to what that looks like for students. So, all right, that's number 2. Number three is going to be collaborating with another class to have students create an AI code of ethics for that class. Now, how this could look is if you're in the middle school, let's say that students are coming from a K-5 school into the middle school, and let's say that you've got a sixth grade class. So what you want to do with that sixth grade class is you want to have it so that the class is looking at some previous classes that they were in, reflecting on that experience and creating an AI code of ethics. Maybe it was a class in which they did use AI, or maybe they didn't and they wanted to. So what would be their motive for getting AI to be allowed in that class? And they would build that code of ethics based on the research that they did in the previous steps. So based on seeing what's out there, what can they implement within their environment? Okay. And something that having this built for another class does is it's the beginning steps of understanding higher level thinking and research for students, which is very key in understanding and learning as a whole, especially at the middle school level.
EduMatch Publishing is dedicated to inspiring a love of reading in children one story at a time. Our books are designed for all ages and are written by educators for all students. Our goal is to transform your home or classroom into a world of reading, where students can explore and learn. As the publishing branch of EduMatch, we're proud to offer books that are created by experts in the field of education. Order your books today and start a new tradition with the special kiddos in your life. Visit our website to learn more.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and jump forward to the resources. The resources that we use here, there are a few resources that are really great that you can easily integrate into different units of study. So number one is going to be lesson one, which is the Our AI Code of Ethics lesson from code.org, which I mentioned earlier. What's really nice about these is that there's alignment within the Common Core state standards. And so you've got your Common Core alignment, and you've also got your computer science standards alignment. So if you're looking for alignment activities, then this is a really good resource for that. In addition, there's all the resources that are free that you can make a copy of here. And the next one is going to be this overview from MIT. This is from MIT Media Lab. This is AI and ethics curriculum for middle school, which is great. You can access the materials in different languages. And there are like full-on projects here that MIT has around ethics and teaching ethics, teaching AI ethics to middle schoolers. So this is the curriculum. You'll note that this is from like 2019. So things have changed. They normally share out about those changes separately. Okay. And then the last resource here is going to be Teaching AI Ethics from Leon Furs. And this resource is something that has been updated recently. And this is all about, it's great. It's got this infographic here that's all about like the teaching AI ethics and all about bias and introducing new words like datafication, effect recognition, and things like that. It really gets students looking at the truth also, which is one of those things that came up on the Jamboard that we did earlier. And you'll notice that whenever there's a talk of ethics, there's also going to be a talk of bias. As I've mentioned before, and I can't mention enough, the two are intertwined. When it comes to ethics, it's all about like right or wrong and making ethical decisions. And ethics and bias go hand in hand because who are we to say what's right? Who are we to say what's wrong? And the bias comes in with regards to the programming of the technology to decide what is right and wrong and who gets access and who doesn't. So those two things go hand in hand. And so when it comes to teaching about ethics and I was going to say data science, when it comes to teaching about ethics and alternative and artificial intelligence, it's important that we have those two lessons like come together as one, that we're not teaching them in silos because they do have a cause-effect relationship. All right. And that's all I have for you today. I will put a link to the slides on the shed. And thank you all.